Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 39 of Parenthood Bites. We're here today with Monique Berg, who is the head of online community and community management at Atlassian. Hi Monique, how are you?
Hi, Chow. Great. How are you?
I'm good. And since I know you by Mo, is it okay if I call you Mo?
You absolutely can call me Mo.
Amazing. We talked a little bit before this. Your daughter's on a camp. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, she is in Costa Rica with her class right now. They are canoeing and ziplining and seeing sloths and butterflies, and I can't wait to hear all about it when she's back.
It's amazing. Is it going with her normal class or is this like a summer thing?
It was a summer offering. A lot of her friends are there on the trip with her. So, it was a special trip we could sign up for, but her science teacher is running it and she loves them. So, it's, great opportunity for her.
Yeah, that's great because it's with the science teacher that she knows, right? Not just like a
Exactly.
random adult.
Right.
And then it's probably easier for you. You trust them too.
Exactly. And we've been getting updates on, all little interpersonal dramas happening, because she's in 7th grade. So there's, some things, but we've been kept updated. So that's good.
So is she in middle school now?
She is. She's a rising 8th grader after this year. It goes fast.
So I guess that goes into my question of like, how many kids do you have and how old are they?
Right. So 1, and she just turned 13.
I know those years. I mean, my oldest is 13 now. Second one is 12. He's going into 7th grade. And the older one's going 9th grade. So around similar ages. I don't know. Sometimes they're in a good mood. Sometimes I'm like, are you in a good mood? Are you not? Like, did I say something piss you off?
Right.
Sometimes I can't read them at that age.
Yeah, adolescence it's the trickiest age so far, I think, this whole time. And also, she's been at the same school from kindergarten and she'll graduate in 8th grade. So she's been in a really good place. We don't have an obvious high school choice. So now we're kind of facing all of the possibilities of where is going to be the best high school to support all of her needs. And that's a scary, scary change too.
Yeah. So is it evaluate the high schools nearby and kind of between her and her friends, they might go to different schools?
Maybe so. Yeah, she has a pretty big group of friends this year, which is pretty new and it's pretty great. But they're in a private school right now. Really fortunate to be able to send her there. But for high school, we are considering the local public school, which is a good high school, but just making sure she has what she needs. I mean, she's got a very artistic drama sort of bent. So a school that has a strong arts program would be, I think, a good fit for her. And she needs a little extra support with the social emotional piece versus the academic piece. So a school that, really understands the unique needs of every kid would be really important for her too. So yeah, another big decision coming up, high school, but I have to start that soon.
Yeah. And there's so many like adjustments going to middle school and going to high school.
Yeah.
So what brought you to a career in tech?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I really sort of stumbled into it. I was working as an English instructor. I was adjuncting at a few local colleges, teaching English literature and writing. And I was also working as a proofreader and copy editor, also freelancing. And so neither one of those things paid particularly well, and neither one was full time with benefits at the time. So I was kind of trying to do my best to cobble together a living, working really hard. It's unfortunate that teaching doesn't pay that well and that a lot of colleges rely on adjunct labor instead of, hiring full-time tenure track teachers and paying them what they're worth. That's a whole nother rant. But as I was doing all of that, I had a friend who was working at Oracle, a large tech company, and she was the director of online community there. And she had known me via online communities. So not that I had ever managed one or even knew it was a career that a person could do. But she said she was looking for somebody who was a good writer and who had like a personality that they could express online. And I was like, well, this would be really a brand new thing for me. But she said, I can teach you everything else. Shout out to Sonia Berry, who was my first mentor in the world of tech and who indeed taught me everything else. So I started working there and really found that it was because I had been familiar with online communities since like the dawn of the internet back in the 90s when I was on BBSs and stuff. I was like, I get what this is. Like, I understand online community management. I had a good instinct for it. And my writing skills and attention to detail kind of helped a lot as well. And so from there, she ended up having to take a medical leave, which fortunately ended well. She's doing great. But I had to sort of suddenly step into her role as the director of community. And then, obviously I was like, okay, this is a lot. But I had another wonderful mentor who was the VP of our organization there. Shout out to Roland Smart, who really helped me sort of grow my confidence in that role and be confident that like, okay, this is a thing that I could do. And, I say kind of jokingly that as a teacher versus working in tech, you work 10 times as hard for 1/10 of the money as a teacher. So I was like, oh, this is great. But then also it's like, it's a job that really is about connecting with other humans. And I think that's a really amazing thing that I feel like I'm helping to build something really good and life-changing and building connections with people in tech. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was kind of this magical job that I didn't know existed, but turned out to be a really, really great fit for me.
Yeah, I love that story. That's amazing. I mean, from the people that you met, the support from them, and also like just doing something you love, right? Because
Right.
you had already been in forums and stuff. You've been talking, like just everything you love, and then to be able to do that and have those opportunities. I love that.
Yeah.
So, were you already in that role when you became a parent, or was it after?
No. So I was thinking about this as we were getting ready to talk today. And I was pregnant while I was still teaching. And I mean, I still remember I had a very difficult pregnancy. I had basically, I don't know if it qualified as hyperemesis, but horrible, horrible morning, 24-hour morning, quote unquote, sickness the whole time.
It's not morning sickness.
Yeah, I
at that
know.
point.
And in that, I lasted the whole time. And I still remember like pulling into the faculty parking lot at one of the schools I was teaching and having to like stop in the middle of the parking lot, open the door, like vomit onto the sidewalk, close the door, go park my car, go to the lecture hall, vomit in the trash can in front of the lecture hall, walk in and deliver a lecture. I mean, it was bad. And I had to carry like my books and papers like up a hill. I'm like 7 months pregnant. And like with teaching, I can't take a day off. There's no maternity leave. Like there's nothing like that. So it was really hard. It was a hard time. And we were also buying a house at the time. It was pretty crazy. And so once I got into tech, I was like, oh my God, people get things like paid maternity leave. Because what I had to do is just take the summer off from teaching. My daughter was born in May. And I was like, okay, well, I just won't work over the summer. I won't pick up any classes and I won't do my freelance work. And so that's how I handled that. But obviously that was all unpaid. So fortunately, my partner was able to support us during that time. But yeah, I had to kind of work up until the last minute. And unfortunately, if I had been in a more supportive environment like I am today, it would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, I mean, just having the morning sickness alone is a lot.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
my
to have to
gosh.
do all of that on top of that. I mean, I remember getting morning sickness, and it's just sometimes you can't even get out of bed, but then you
No.
had to, right? You forced yourself to
Yeah.
do that. Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
I eventually, like way too late, got on the drugs, but it still didn't. I took Zofran, which is like the anti-nausea or antiemetic. So I still didn't feel great on it, but at least I wasn't like, debilitated. But it got so bad that I couldn't even get out of bed at points. It got bad, but I pushed through it a lot longer than probably should have been humanly possible.
And isn't that amazing? You probably think back and you're like, how did I even have that superpower?
Yeah, how did I do that?
But you were able to, right, gather all that like that's a
Right.
lot of strength to be able to get through
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
To even drive there and then do that lecture. Like how long was a lecture? 2 hours?
Yeah, no, probably an hour or so.
An hour? Geez. So an
Yeah.
hour you couldn't like
Right.
throw up, couldn't do any, couldn't sit down.
Yeah, I have to say that probably was not my best year of teaching, but I did my
That's
best.
amazing that you powered through. So then after your daughter was born, did you have childcare? How did you go back to teaching?
We had a nanny share for a bit, and then we had a local daycare person. So I went back to both copy editing and teaching at that time. And Mina was about 6 months old. And so I had a steady job at an ad agency, which I know we both have history working at ad agencies, but that's where I was doing my copy editing at the ad agency when Mina was little. And that's how we did it. We had a nanny share with some friends from our birth group, and we had a wonderful nanny. Again, shout out to Koi. She was amazing. And yeah, we had our daughter in good hands. And I was actually really happy to go back to work. And I know there's every mom that I talk to, I feel like has a different feeling of like, oh, I wish I could have stayed longer, or whatever. I went back, I think, at the 5 or 6 month mark. It felt really like the right time. It felt like I had spent the summer really enjoying my baby, but also I was very eager to not just be a mom, but to also reclaim my identity as a human person, which was one of those weird fears that I had before having a child. Like, am I just this now? Am I just a mom forever? Which is, of course, not true. But in my mind, that's what I was afraid would happen to me, that my identity would be completely subsumed by momness. So I was ready to go back to work and have career Mo back, not just mom Mo. And so I've been balancing the two ever since, right?
No, I get that because you spent so much time with this infant and you're just with the infant all day and you're like, can I still talk to adults? At least for me, I was like,
Right.
I want to go back to work. Can I still do that? I want to, go back to who I was before. Because it's like forever I'll be known as this kid's mom. I
Right.
won't be known as Chow. I'll be known as so-and-so's mom. And I think even as they grow up, at least for me, it's like part of that juggle of myself
Yeah.
versus just someone's mom.
I wrote down, I remember like a list of fears before I had a baby. And one of them was, I always remember this one because it was so weird. It was like, will I still love watching Top Chef? Like this idea that this
Right.
TV show that I liked, like I wouldn't care about it anymore. And just, I look back and laugh because, sure, I still love, competitive reality shows.
Right.
Maybe not Top Chef right now. I don't know if it's still on, but I just finished watching The Mole and it was really good.
There's so many more options now,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
right? It's not you not liking it. There's so many more
Exactly.
options to watch.
But that's when I took up bird watching. So I had an excuse to kind of go walk out in nature and just spend some time alone doing something just for me, seeing birds. It was like, okay, I want to be something other than just a mom, in addition to being, the best mom I could be.
Yeah, for sure. Because we aren't just that one role.
Right.
We're now multiple roles. So, how has your work life changed since you became a parent?
Well, I mean, I think I have two really fortunate things going for me. One is the places that I've worked have been incredibly supportive of work-life balance. Oracle was fully remote, even, pre-pandemic. I joined in 2013. And so there's, work travel. There's always been some work travel involved in my roles, but for the most part, it was remote. So that really helped me with the work-life balance piece because when I was teaching at a college about 40 minutes away. And when I was copy editing, I was commuting into the city, which takes about an hour each way. So the fact that I didn't have those commutes anymore was a huge game changer. When I started at Atlassian in 2017, I was going into the office a couple of days a week. But, a lot of tech companies pay kind of lip service to the work-life balance. And they say that it's important to them, but they don't really walk the walk. We're going to serve dinner so that you never have to leave. You're
Yeah.
trapped in here. And the culture is like that. But Atlassian's culture is very much like, no, we do respect the work-life balance. And I have had managers who have really helped me with that too. So that's one thing is like where I've worked, I've been really fortunate to be able to maintain a work-life balance and take care of what I need to take care of with my child. And, my husband, I have to say, as a mom in tech specifically, I see and talk to so many women whose partners kind of don't contribute the same level. I think that's like such a common story with moms is like the mom is the default parent. The mom is like, the person. And my husband has done more than his fair share of everything involving our daughter. And just for example, like he was the primary school parent. He's been that primary parent all the way from kindergarten through ninth grade now. And he's volunteered as a room parent. He's coordinated the room parents. He helped choose the school. He pays attention to all the school emails and all the dates of like when school closed and when, and all of that stuff is like in, that emotional labor that often it's moms who end up doing that and managing that piece of it. And so the fact that he's that type of person to be able to lean in and do all of that has made it a lot easier for me too to balance. So a great job and a great husband. So basically feel like I won the lottery on both of those things.
Let's just say a huge shout out to your husband.
Yes, shout out to Ian.
Yes, shout out to Ian, and I know Ian as well. For listeners who don't, know us, like I know Mo through Ian actually,
Yep.
because I had worked with Ian at an advertising agency. He's one of the sweetest, most wonderful people I've ever met, and so like huge shout out to him, and also to you too, Mo. Like you two are just amazing, and I hear you telling the story, and I'm just like, oh, just warm and fuzzy. I love that because it's so important, and I hear so many people just the balance is just not there, and to have a partner that can step up and help, and like you said, sometimes do above and beyond is just huge, and it helps you so you can focus. I know for me, like if Mike takes the kids and I'm like I have a few hours to focus, I'm like, wow, I can get so much done, and I don't have that burden of worrying about them, right? Worrying about what they're doing, where they are.
Yeah, it's that invisible labor that, not just women do it, of course, but like often moms are like, okay, I have to remember the play dates and, maintain the social ties and figure out drop offs and pickups. And, oh, I have to make cupcakes for the thing. And, oh, she needs a costume for this thing. And, so we're able to split that work, not just the, day-to-day stuff, but the more invisible management piece of it, I think. And it's important to have help with that if you're going to try to balance everything.
And that invisible piece is what we don't talk about a lot. And a lot of times we take for granted, we just do it and then it's not mentioned. And that's what adds to a lot of the pressure and the burden. And the fact that invisible piece is so intentionally shared is like a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what are some things that you struggle with at your daughter's current age of 13?
Yeah, I mean, 13, here we go. There's puberty, there's adolescence, and, I won't get too much into any of her stories, but she's, needs additional support in terms of, emotional and social stuff. And so trying to support her through that is the current thing, the current challenge. And it's hard. I feel like as a parent, you always feel like you should be doing something different or more because you want your child to, be perfectly well adjusted at all times and have perfect happiness. And it's hard to see them having disagreements with their friends. And to what extent do you give advice? And to what extent do you just let them work it out? And I think the big focus for me has been keeping the lines of communication open. I'm really, really lucky that she's willing to sort of talk to me about some of the stuff that she's dealing with and making sure that, especially as she gets to be a teenager, I know there's going to be less of that. I know there will be things she'll want to keep to herself, and I want to respect that. But then also I want her to know she can always talk to me about anything and tell me anything. And dealing with all of the more complex emotions that come when you're, suddenly a teenager, I think, it's a challenge for sure. I'm really looking to a lot of parents who have been through it more recently. I feel like that's kind of the secret weapon for every parent is like, there's always somebody who's like, okay, your kid is a year or two older than my kid. Like, what are your secrets? Tell me, what have you learned?
Yeah. Just hearing from all the different experiences, right?
Yeah.
As I said, my oldest one is 13, and I've been going through that as well of like, I want to tell him like, hey, I'm here for you. So when things get tough, I'm here. So I tried different ways to like, tell him like when you make friends and like if it's hard, let's talk. When you have a significant other you like, let's talk about it, I know there's certain things they may not be comfortable sharing with me, but I'm just like, but if it's tough, don't hold it. And you just,
Right.
And so, but then I hear from a lot of people, it's like, it gets tough for a little bit because they're going through these changes. And then later they're okay. And then they can be, your best friend again and hang out with you again. Everybody keeps telling me that you go through those stages. And then later it's like they blossom into this awesome being, obviously they're still awesome, but like even more awesome.
Right.
And so I'm looking forward to helping them get through that and then seeing that other side, the
Right. We're
butterfly
just
on the
hanging on to the
outside.
for the butterfly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember reading a book when I was growing up. It's the Anastasia Krupnik series, for anybody who knows, by Lois Lowry. And one of the books talks about how all 13-year-olds hate their parents. Like there's this whole thing. And I think I read the book when I was 13 and was like, oh, haha, yes, of course, that's true. And then I got to, her being 13 and I was like, oh my God, what if that book was true? Like
Yeah.
she's going to start hating us. So I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. And I blame Lois Lowry and her wonderful literature for this.
Yeah, that definitely is a thing I worry about because I know when I was 13 and I know my friends at 13 and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I I hope they love us
Yes.
continuously. I know you talked a little bit about like work-life balance earlier, but I was curious kind of what are some of the things that you do to maintain that work-life
Yeah.
balance?
Well, we're fully remote now as well ever since the pandemic. So, like, the biggest thing that I do is avoid the temptation to put Slack on my phone. So, at my company, we're very heavily Slack based and I love my job. And so if Slack is on my phone, which it has been in the past, I'm like always checking in and I get sucked into, Slack conversations and stuff. That's not great for work-life balance. So when I keep Slack off my phone, I keep pretty solid work hours. And when I'm off, I put down the computer and walk away from it and try not to look at it when I'm not at work. That's kind of the biggest thing is that. And then I also always kind of block off my calendar. I have focus blocks. And you really need that because, especially in my role, like my day can get very easily sucked up into just a bunch of meetings when I don't have time to get things done. So I schedule blocks of time on my calendar for taking lunch breaks, for planning. Like I have a standing block on Monday for planning my week. I have no meetings Friday. Doesn't always work. Like occasionally there will be a meeting or two, but for the most part, I don't schedule meetings on Fridays. And then, I block off my calendar and I take advantage of the fact that I'm at home to be like, okay, during my lunch break, I'm going to start a load of laundry or I'm going to order some groceries
Yeah.
on Instacart. God bless you, Instacart.
Right.
And try to take care of some of those little things as well. And then my company allows unlimited PTO, which can be a double-edged sword for sure. If the culture is that you never actually can take it. But, for example, this week I took the week off because my daughter's in Costa Rica for her school trip. And so then I'm able to spend the week catching up on, like, I've been organizing my closet this week and doing all these little chores and things that don't get handled otherwise. So giving yourself permission to take a vacation that isn't like going somewhere, but is actually just catching up on organizing your life, I think has been really helpful. I did it last time she went on a school trip and I'm like, this is great. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are just some of the things that I do. Yeah, and our company is really supportive of it. My manager is really supportive of taking the time that you need when you need it. So it's never been an issue to enforce the boundaries around my time that I need to enforce to be my best self.
Yeah, I love that. And you also said giving yourself permission to take a vacation, but actually go on vacation. How did you get to that point? Because I feel like in the beginning it's always hard to, but how did you get to the point of saying, hey, it's okay.
Mm.
I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the important thing has been having my leadership model that. It's being able to see, I have a boss who takes time off and we all travel a lot for work. I travel probably about once a month for work. And often after like our annual conference, half of the people will take the following week off to sort of decompress. And that's just kind of become part of the culture, is this understanding that, like, yes, you're going to need time to decompress and you should take the time that you need. And so I kind of see it all around, like all my colleagues, there's just a culture on the team of like, yeah, take the time when you need to take the time. And that's been great.
I love that. And then you're also modeling.
And we had they instituted special leave for a while during COVID. I think it lasted for a few years, where it was like, okay, you can also take additional leave if you feel that you need it to take care of family, or if you're ill or whatever. And again, like for our US employees, we do have this unlimited PTO, but having that modeled of like, okay, there's this special leave that you can take, kind of gives you permission, psychological permission to take it for other reasons than like, I'm going to Disney
Right,
World.
right.
Because especially sometimes with kids, like that feels like less of a vacation. It's more like,
Like you need a vacation after that,
right,
right? I always felt like after a trip.
your post vacation.
Yeah, yeah. You need some time before to prepare because you got to prepare everything and then you need some time after to recover from all of it.
Yeah, so I take work trips, I take personal trips where I just go by myself to places. Like I often just need a week at the beach, or a weekend, a long weekend at the beach. And yeah, we take family trips as well. So we travel a lot for fun, for business, and that's great.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, like, what helps you relax and unwind? It sounds like traveling is one of those.
Traveling is one of those, yes, going to a place on the beach where I can hear ocean waves and fall asleep to the sound of the waves is like super restorative for me. During the pandemic, my pandemic hobby was like, I know everybody was making sourdough bread, but we have really good sourdough bread in the Bay Area. I don't need to like reinvent the wheel. Like we'll drive down the street to Acme Bakery and get the best sourdough bread. But I took up watercolor painting, and so I've been doing that. And that's been really fun. I've always loved art and creativity, and just it's been really fun working on that. I found that I really enjoy watercolor portraiture specifically. Started off horrible, have slowly improved. I do a painting of John Ritter every year to measure my progress. My John Ritters have been getting better and better. I've been trying to do the same thing with Kate Winslet, but for some reason, like as much as I love her, she's harder to paint. I'm trying to do this. I have this one reference picture of her from Titanic that I love, that I really want to paint, and her eye keeps like being too far up on her face, which I really don't understand because I use a light box to make sure I get the proportions right, and then yet her eye just seems to travel. I don't know. Have not figured out that one yet.
But John
My
Ritter,
John Ritters are
you
improving.
got
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. I've got him down.
And I've seen some of your work, and it looks really, really awesome. How long
Thank
does it
you.
take you to paint like one portrait?
Yeah, about with watercolor, you have to let it dry between layers, but like active painting time is usually about an hour, 90 minutes.
I hadn't thought about that. Like you have to wait between the layers, and then I know I would get impatient and be like poking it. Like, is it done?
I know, I do sometimes, and sometimes that backfires because then if you can get really muddy colors if you do that. But yeah, if you're patient and let the layers dry, it can come out really
I
cool.
love that you have the John Ritter portrait every year to see progress. That's such a great idea. Like,
Oh my gosh. And some of the older ones are really classic. Like there's
amazing.
one that looks like he has a like a fake face like plastered over his real face. We call him Leatherface John Ritter, but like I was trying my best
Yeah.
and it just came out so tragic that it's kind of funny. I should actually frame that and hang it on my wall cuz
Yeah, it would be so neat, right, to see, like, the changes between each of the photos. You
right.
could even do, like, a time lapse thing when you're all
I know.
when you have one that you're like, "Okay, this is it." Then to see
Yeah.
that would be amazing. But also earlier you mentioned sort of like, when you're talking to your daughter about, like, letting her know, "I'm here for you," but also
Mhm.
there's that balance of, like, not being too overbearing. I was just curious kind of like, what have you been doing to kind of to make sure she knows you're there for her and for other parents
Yeah.
whose kids are gonna be 13 soon?
Oh my gosh. First of all, good luck, and we can get through it and we'll do it together. I've read parenting books and tried to, take advice from fellow moms. And I think the big thing is to listen without judgment and validate their feelings. And I think I read in one book that, it's a two-part message that you need to reinforce for them. And it's like, first, you validate their feelings or emotions, and then you tell them that you believe in them, that they can handle it. So you're trying to instill some confidence in them. And if you just validate their feelings, like, oh, yes, I know this is really hard for you, or this is really scary, or this is really bad, then it's not as helpful. And if you only validate them, like, you can do it, you can handle it, then it seems like it's negating their feelings. But if you put both of those pieces together and you say like, I know it's really hard, I know it's really scary, but I believe in you and I believe that you can get through it, then you're giving them both sides of the message. Like, I'm here for you, I believe you, I understand you, and also like I know that you can do it, and trying to empower them. So I loved that. I've been trying that out. It's been really helpful. She also, like, of her own volition, has started kind of showing me some things she's writing in her journal. She started a journal last year, and so she'll show me her feelings, and sometimes they're hard ones. Sometimes they're hard feelings that I can't fix or do anything about, but I always have that, try to validate her feelings and appreciate that it's a real gift for her to feel comfortable to share with me. Even if
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, she's having a day where she's down on herself, obviously it breaks my heart. I think she's perfect and should never be down on herself, but I don't want to negate those feelings that she's having that are hard feelings. And I don't want her to think that I don't want to hear it or that she can't tell me about it. So validation and then trying to instill that, like, you can handle these hard feelings, because that's kind of what life is about. There's always going to be those hard feelings and difficult moments, and empowering your child with the knowledge that they can get through it, I think is important.
Yeah, that is so important. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely. And I think it's such a gift. You have that such a close relationship with her. That's amazing. I love that. Like, she feels so comfortable to tell you things, show you things, and I think that's the relationship we want to have with our kids.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not always, and it hasn't always been like that. So she likes sort of being very oblique about her feelings sometimes, and not telling you them, but making you kind of guess like what's going on.
Yeah, my kids do that too.
Yeah, and I'm like, if you just could tell me in words, it would be helpful.
Right.
But then sometimes, like, okay, can you write it down? And that helps,
Because sometimes it's hard for them to even express or even understand
right?
what that feeling is, right? Sometimes I
Exactly.
find that they just, it's not they don't want to. Because if at first I'm like, just tell me. And then I realize, like, they don't know how to put it into words to describe it. So they're just going through so much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember being 13. It sucked.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we empathize with them, right? I'm like,
I
oh, I
know.
know that.
Well, we've done that. We've been like, middle school was horrible for us too. You're not
Yeah,
alone. But I don't think that that's that helpful, really.
right.
We thought that was going to be our ace in the hole. Like, yeah, middle school is terrible. Like, that's really not what you wanted to hear, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. Going into high school, that was also tough, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I try to, sometimes I find myself telling that of like, yeah, that was tough. But then I try to go back to being like, okay, but this is how I dealt with it, and
Right,
you
right.
can deal with it too.
Right, exactly. And it turned out okay. We made it through.
Yeah. And here I am. I'm still alive.
Right.
So,
So you will be
but I
too.
guess I can't word it like
No, yeah,
that.
exactly. You probably won't die.
Yeah.
Maybe not the empowering message.
Not the best way.
Right.
I love what you said about like validating their feelings and then telling, helping them realize that they can do it because we know they can. Sometimes
Right.
I'm just like, how do you not see it? But they, they don't. And
Right.
we understand that. So it's about helping them see what we see too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing I like to ask is just what's something you would tell someone who's planning to have kids or something you wish you knew before you became a parent?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky question, but I would say really it's important to make sure that you and your partner understand the kind of work that goes into raising a child, and what we were talking about before, that invisible labor of managing the social ties and the school and the thing, and like, especially for moms, especially for women. Like, I know people who have had babies and children with like the wrong partner, right? And they just end up doing everything. And I think you just have to be really careful about who that partner is for you, which is, it's a big choice, like finding the right person who's going to be that co-parent and partner and support you in the way that you need. And I also think, like, at least something that has resonated with most moms I've talked to is that if you're balancing being a working mom, I mean, maybe it's just because I was raised Catholic, but I feel like you are always going to feel guilty about something that you're not doing. Like, this pervasive sense of like, oh, I'm not, I need to make sure, and it starts when the baby is born. And it's like, if your breast milk doesn't come in, like, which mine didn't. And there are people who are like, well, if you're not breastfeeding your baby, like, it's the end of the world, right? And it's the best advice I got when I had an infant was like, it's not the end of the world. Like, if you give them formula, if you have to use disposable diapers or whatever it is that people are telling you, is like, if you don't make your own baby food out of like organic carrots you've grown from your own garden, like, your baby's going to be okay, and you're going to be okay, and you're going to get through it. But yeah, there's always something to feel like you could be doing more or better. And there, especially like if you take to heart what you see on social media where people are presenting this like idealized view of like what it is to be a parent. And I'm like, well, I'm not cutting her lunch into little bento bai. And I say that as if Ian hasn't made every single one of her lunches for the past like 10 years. Like, God bless him. I never made her lunch. So yeah, but like if I'm not cutting her lunch into little fun Hello Kitty shapes, like I'm the worst. Or if, I get a Safeway birthday cake instead of like the fancy birthday cake or whatever it is, or I'm not there at the right moments, or I don't have enough time for her, or whatever it is, I think you always feel on some level that you could be doing more and better, and you focus on the negatives instead of all the amazing things that you do. And as a working mom too, and if you have a daughter, but if you have a son too, like, you're modeling the fact that women can be in positions of power, and they can be badass boss women, and they can do and be anything. And I think that's an important message to embody for your kids as well. And like showing them that there's a balance in life and that you're always trying to strive for it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know the magic formula for letting go of the guilt. Again, the Catholicism maybe is ingrained too deeply, but I try to at least name it and acknowledge it when it comes up, and try to realize like the bigger societal forces that mean like it's bullshit to some extent that society just wants women to feel guilty about everything all the time.
I think naturally too, we already have that. And then adding on to everything society presents to us, we feel even more like, even when I was breastfeeding, it's like if I stop early, I'm like, oh gosh, all
Right.
these other people are feeding for even longer. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do
Right.
it? But then later I realized like you meet so many people, you can't tell you, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're still wonderful humans, potty training too. I was like, oh God, I can't potty train my kid, but I've never seen an adult that wasn't potty trained.
Exactly.
Eventually it happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
But we're hard on ourselves. It's like a month early versus a month late.
right.
I feel bad because my kid is not as fast as everyone else, but in the grand scheme of things, it's okay. They're happy. That's what's important.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Mina didn't walk till she was 18 months old.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, did I not do enough tummy time? Like,
Right. But then she's great now. She's
right. She can walk.
Yeah.
She does fine.
You don't see adults crawling around.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I used to feel guilty too because, my son had a classmate that was like, why don't you pack lunch for him? I couldn't. I just didn't have the time.
Right.
And she's like, her mom did like, these cute little flowers and everything was packaged beautifully.
Right.
I felt so bad. And I asked my son, but he didn't even notice. He didn't even care.
Right.
He was just like, I'm fine. It didn't even bother him. But then to us, when someone just says that, it's like, it hits us hard.
Right.
Like I still remember that. And that's from when he was 6.
Right.
He's 13 now. That's so long ago. But I still remember it every day.
But then like, would he be a different person if you had packed him different lunch? Like, no.
He would not care at all. It would not faze him.
He's fine.
But what's important is that we're actually there for them, right? Like,
right.
He feels comfortable talking to you. That's the important thing.
Right.
It's not about if we gave them a flower.
Yeah, cutting their lunch into a little design.
Yeah, it's about you made the time to talk to her when she needed you. You made the time to be there for her. And that's huge. And that's what they see. They see that you're so busy, yet you're able to carve out the time for them to make them feel special and wonderful. And I realized that that's what they see.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, Mo, it was great talking to you and seeing you. And people don't know this. I haven't seen Mo in so long, and it's so good to see you.
And you too.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this and taking the time to speak with me today.
It was so fun. I love the podcast, and
thank you.
Excited to keep listening.
Thanks. I'm hoping in the future have updates with people, so I might ping you in the future.
Oh my gosh. All right. Sounds great.
All right. Well, take care and good luck with the, 8th grade and all of that. And
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. And I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.